Eastern edge of Africa, before there was Kenya or Lamu, since the dawn of creation when time began, and the Earth's great oceans yielded to even greater masses of land. White sand beaches skirted the 7 continents, and out of that sand that reached into the water, baby sea turtles began marching to the sea, fearless and driven to the briny deep, in spite of nature's predators and foes. The females will return to their natal beach one day to lay their own eggs. That is, if they can survive life's many obstacles, those foreseeable and those unforeseen. Meet Odo, a foe now friend to the turtles.
I was born in Tana River district. I grew up there and then came to Lamu in 1978. In 1979, I left for Voi. Then I came back to Lamu in 1999 to herd the goats.
Sea turtle predator number 1, poachers. Odo was a poacher.
1999. That's when I started eating turtle meat. I did this until I was employed as a patroller. Since then, I've stopped eating turtle meat. I didn't know much about turtle meat, but the locals raved about it being an aphrodisiac, so I had to taste it. I only used to eat the turtle meat. I never ate the eggs. Turtle meat is said to increase libido in men, making them more virile and sexually active. I used to eat the meat, so I have first-hand experience of its effects. Can I say it works? You should sleep away from your wife. Even your sweat smells of it. Even when you go to pee, you can still smell the turtle meat. Before I started working for Lamcot, I really enjoyed eating turtle meat. I stopped eating turtles and now I protect them, knowing they're facing extinction. I regret eating turtle meat before and seeing how much loss I caused. Now I take care of them like my own children. When they build their nest, the mama turtle digs out the sand with her rear flippers. The rear flippers help prevent the sand from collapsing into the hole. The turtle lays her eggs one at a time, sometimes 2, 3, or even 4 at once. As she's laying, she closes her eyes and won't open them until she's done, even if she's disturbed. She covers the hole and goes back into the ocean for 10 to 14 days. She comes back to lay again near its last nest, but not in the same nest. It takes up to 60 days during the cold season for the eggs to hatch, and 45 to 48 days to hatch during the hot season. When it's not so cold, it takes between 52 to 55 days. Mostly, turtles lay their eggs at night. Once the top egg hatches, the baby turtle triggers the rest of the eggs to hatch. It takes 3 hours for them to dig out of the nest. Then I call the office for guests to come and see the hatching. I know the hatching by checking the dates and seeing loose sand at the top of the nest. The sand collapses. It makes a concave shape from the baby turtle's movement inside the nest. When I started working, we had 70 nests. Then the number reduced to 60, then down again to 25. In another year, it shot up to 40 nests. In the year 2012, we hatched 56. It varies a lot. The egg count depends on the nest temperature. In the cool season, a nest can hatch up to 200 eggs. In the hot season, a nest can hatch about 60 eggs, so it really depends on the weather conditions. The female turtles come back to their native beach to lay their eggs. I have seen over 30 female turtles come back to lay eggs. Male turtles never come back to shore, only the females to lay their eggs. I have never seen a giant turtle. I didn't go to school, but I know a lot about sea turtles. Even back home in Tana River, they are always surprised at my vast knowledge on sea turtles. Now I know as much as the experts. I can even identify a new nest. I normally see the green turtles, but I have also seen the hawksbill turtles. The hawksbill turtles mostly lay their eggs under shrubs along the beach. They don't dig their eggs very deep. Even though it's shallow, you still can't tell it's a nest. The eggs face a lot of predators: wild cats, birds, ghost crabs, and poachers. Sometimes I have to completely cover the nest so they don't dig the eggs out. In the ocean, the hatchlings can be eaten by birds, small fish, big fish, sharks, and ghost crabs. For the big turtles, the biggest enemy is man. They get caught in fishing nets and are eaten. The turtles also can eat plastic bags and die. The sea turtles can protect themselves. They are completely defenseless. There was even a time when hyenas and lions used to eat the baby turtles.
The mama turtle must dig her nest above the highest tide, or all the eggs will be ruined.
So it's really important that the little hatchlings do that first walk to the beach from the nest down to the water themselves, because when they come up to the surface from the sand and then they realize where the ocean is by looking at the light that glitters on the surface of the ocean. So it can be either the moon or the sunrise. Sometimes we also use some artificial lights when we're helping the turtles nest. And on that first walk is where basically they set their GPS. So they're starting from zero, and on that first walk down to the ocean, that first swim out, that's when all the bearings get set, and that's how the turtles realize from there on that's their center, the navel of the world. Everything else revolves around that, and eventually that's how they find their way back to point zero, I guess you want to say as well. But they're only able to do that when they do that first walk themselves. So if people take them out of the nest and then place them right in the water, they won't be able, they'll get confused, they won't be able to put the bearings as naturally good as they could. That's why it's so important that they do that little walk themselves.
It is most important for the baby turtles to walk on their own from the nest to the ocean, because this stimulates their muscle and their lungs as they are going for a long swim and a very rough swim. So they have to stimulate their lungs and muscles for them to get ready for the ocean. It is said that out of every 1,000, only one survives to maturity. But according to our data now, out of 1,000, 2 survives. Because we are having so much turtles to come to lay eggs. This is a sign that Lamu Marine is doing a great job to conserve the turtle.
Lamu Marine is Lamcot, the Lamu Marine Conservation Trust. The sea turtles in Lamu were endangered and facing extinction. But since 1992, Lamcot has had over 80,000 successful hatchlings. An average nest for the green sea turtle has 100 eggs. 95 of those will make it to the sea, sometimes less, depending on ghost crabs. Hatchlings spend the first week at sea swimming on the surface, at risk. The yolk from the egg will sustain them for that week. But the hatchlings are easy prey from above and below. They normally run to the sea under cover of early dawn or late dusk. Odo now delivers approximately 5,000 baby turtles per year. Out of the 5,000, only 5 to 10 will survive. Even fewer will be returning females. At birth, they fight their way out of their egg, then climb their way out of the nest. They doggedly run to the sea, where they must swim in perilous surf, all with no rest and no guidance. They are exhausted, but determined, spent, yet indomitable. The survivors can live to be 80 years old and cross the greatest oceans. The first 20 years are the lost years. No one knows exactly where they go. The females will return to their natal beach one day to lay their own eggs. The males will never come back to shore. Poachers like Odo and his brother would steal the eggs and sell them on the black market. But now Lamcot pays Odo to protect the eggs. He will even relocate a nest if it is in danger or too close to a high tide. Not all the hatchlings make it out alive. Some never make it to the sea. After every hatching, the eggs are counted and logged as data. Lamcot pays Odo per successful hatchling. His livelihood now depends on the turtle surviving and returning one day to lay more eggs. Not all of them make it out of the shell. Every obstacle for the turtles is now an obstacle for Odo. As the hatchlings go, so does Odo go. He collects the eggs, those hatched and unhatched, and takes them back to the compound with his brother. He keeps a logbook of every nest and every hatching, of those who made it and those who did not. Predator number 2, ghost crabs. poachers, ghost crabs are one of their main predators. They wait at the shoreline, disappearing in the surf, waiting to take the heads off the babies as they enter the ocean. They are called ghost by the way they can suddenly appear and then vanish. Odo and his brother do their best to keep the hungry ghost crabs at bay, but they don't always succeed. The birth of Lamcot, Lamu Marine Conservation Trust.
I was introduced to the turtles by a guy called David Olendo, who walked from Tanzania all the way up the coast, down every beach, and every time he found a turtle nest, he'd take it to the first hotel that he came across and try and encourage them to protect the turtles and to understand the difficulties that they were in because they were being poached. Most of the nests were being poached from the beaches because there were more and more poachers. As more and more population expands, there's more and more poachers on each beach. So he would collect the nest and take it to the nearest hotel and teach them how to translocate it into the hotel grounds. So he arrived here at about 9 o'clock in the morning one morning with this basket of eggs, and I've always been interested in animals and conservation, but never really thought I would be in turtles. So he took the nest and we translocated it into the hotel grounds, and he gave me a little lesson on them and left me with them. And 45 days later, hatched the first nest, and really I suppose that's where Lamu Marine Conservation was hatched. We took the little hatchlings down to this beach and released them on the outgoing tide. There'd been no nests on this beach for, well, as far as the guys could remember. So then we started trying to do a little bit of my own investigations, offering money that I would give some money if people bought me the eggs rather than taking them to town. So that's how the project started. I had the wrong person at Takwa. So it taken me a few years to actually get through all the rubbish at the top and find out who the real people are. And I then met, Odo came to me one day and I said he heard I was paying for these turtle eggs, and he was the one that was looking after them. So I went to meet him and his brother, and so then we decided to leave them in situ because they'd been playing tricks with me, trying to bring me eggs that they'd already sold in town. So they were trying to do a scam. So there's been lots of those little tricks which you just learn from and try and find the next way how to deal with it.
Oh, shame on you poachers who hate seeing turtles swimming happily in the sea. Holy God gave us a beautiful nature to take care of. Let's fight and speak for turtles. People are destroying the wild beauty species turtles. God gave us many animals to eat, but your mouth waters when you see a turtle. A time will come when turtle will be history. You should change for a better tomorrow. God destroyer. Shame on you. Who is to be blamed? Me, you, pupils, parents, the government, or who? Thank you.
Predator number 3, fishing nets. Fishermen's nets have become an unnatural pitfall to the turtles. Used to swimming freely and unencumbered in the sea, the nets can become an instant snare. The Lamcaught Tag and Release Incentives Program.
The tagging program is when a turtle is accidentally caught by a fisherman. It is brought in to Peponi for us to tag it. We measure its length, its width, and if there is any sickness it has, we cure it. And we tag it in the rear flipper, on the flesh and not on the veins of the flippers, so there will be no blood coming out. It's a metallic plate which goes on the rear flipper, and it's stainless steel which doesn't get rusty, so it won't be harmful for the turtle.
The population, or rather the rate of the sea turtles in Lamu archipelago has really increased. And the rate of poaching also has really decreased, because we are also doing the economic incentive. This is an alternative. The fishermen do not poach, but they get something out of bringing the turtle, incentive, in other words. That makes the rate of the turtle in this area to very highly increase. And whenever they accidentally trap them, they bring to Lamcaught. We measure the turtle's carapace, length, width. We put a tag, and we release them to the beach.
And once the fisherman accidentally caught a turtle in the fishing net, and if they brought it to Lamu Marine Conservation Trust tags the turtle and measures it and puts it back in the ocean, and the fisherman is paid incentive. This incentive does not mean that they should go and catch the turtle, but the incentive is given to repair the nest, because a turtle does a lot of damage in the fishing nets.
Predator number 4, rubbish. The Indian Ocean is becoming a septic waste pond of plastic and trash that spews rubbish on all its shores. Many third world countries have a culture that cares little about littering. Some industrial nations in the developed world are no better. It's garbage in and garbage out. Our living oceans and all that's alive in them have become victims. But turtles are more susceptible than others. Unfortunately, plastic doesn't go away. Plastic bags are lethal. Turtles eat plastic bags that look like jellyfish. The problem is, they all look like jellyfish.
Initially, the turtle misunderstand the plastic bags to jellyfish, and then they eat this plastic bag, and then it goes to block their floating system, and it's give them a hard time to dive, for them to go catch food, and then it starves to death.
The plastic bag billows out with the water, and the turtles think that it's jellyfish and go and eat it. There's lots of ways that they consume the plastic. And then this fills because it takes 6 weeks for anything to be digested by the turtle. Their metabolism is so slow, and they can really lower it down. And it's incredible, their intestine, how long it is. So it gets stuck in the intestine, the plastic bag. And slowly it just fills up, and then it kills them. They get infections. So even if you get them in when they're sick and you give them antibiotics, because it takes 6 weeks for the whole thing to go through, it takes a long time for the antibiotics to work, so you really have to work on it very quickly.
There's also pollution in general, so ocean pollution, which can create diseases, for example, for turtles, some tumors and some other diseases, internal diseases, and also plastic pollution in terms of when the turtles mistake the plastic for food and they ingest it and it blocks up their stomach, or it just completely blocks the digestive system and they die from that.
Luckily, there's a turtle hospital. Lamcott works closely with the Watamu Turtle Watch and flies the sick turtles in Lamu down the coast for treatment at the Watamu Turtle Hospital.
So what I do here at Watamu Turtle Watch is take care of the sick and injured turtles, the ones which are brought in, which will have been caught by fishermen while they're fishing there. So we usually conduct a diagnosis to know exactly where the problem is. I do that together with our veterinary officer around here, Mr. Faraj. So every turtle that you do get, usually give him a call to come down. We conduct the diagnosis together, make a decision on what sort of medication that particular turtle needs. And then we keep the turtle until the turtle recovers, and then we're fully convinced that it's right to, or it's the time to set the turtle free. And we usually take the turtle out for what we call a sea bath to assess whether the turtle can control its buoyancy, just in case it was a floater, to make sure the turtle is able to identify the right food, especially for the turtles which do come in with the brain damages, the ones which will have been maybe speared by fishermen, or they've had a bash maybe on the head or something of the sort. And then soon we are fully convinced that the turtle is now ready to set free, we tag the turtle, take it the last or the final data about that pelago turtle, and then set it free. Taking them out to swim with them, that's really fun. You know, everyone would love to do that, and I feel to be privileged to have this job. With the turtles, you always learn something new with them, especially the ones which do come and rehab. They do come with different diseases, and every disease have a different approach to treat it. So you're always on the scale of learning every time. George came in, he was very much limp, and he couldn't even move his flipper. So we were unable to set him free. So we brought him here, we conducted a diagnosis, and we realized that he's anemic. So we've got him here, he's getting some, we're trying to help him, giving some puree from shrimp that we blend every day, and he gets at least 200 meals every day. And then serving him with that food until we do find him going to toilet. That's the time that the turtle may start showing interest of eating by himself. So it is until he reaches that stage, otherwise it's too soon to tell what will be happening next. And then we do have Beauty. So she came in with the shell really soft. And then the plastron, the bottom part of her body was well concaved and was wrinkling. We did an X-ray on her and realized she had air packages on the rear GI, and we knew that it is because she's not been eating for quite some time. This is why the shell has been going soft. And then the other thing that we did, so we kept her. And then turtles are always reluctant to eat by themselves, even when they're comfortable to eat, for at least a week or so. And then even when there is really nice food, like maybe squid, seagull or something that they eat, but they'll be reluctant to eat until they're like really starving. That's when they would show interest of eating. So I've been giving them some antibiotics. She's had a little bit of that because her immune system would have dropped. Some blood flow medication. She's had some multivitamin, of which we do all that together with our vet around here. And now she's eating very well. She's adding weight. The carapace is now beginning to harden. So we'll just keep on taking her out for the sea bath to assess how she behaves. Soon we notice her eating while she's out there and eating the right food, she'll be ready to set free. So she might stay with us for maybe another week, 2 weeks or so.
The Lamu archipelago has mostly green sea turtles and the hawksbill. This is a giant green turtle, but the leatherbacks are the largest. They can travel 10,000 miles or more each year in search of jellyfish from Japan to Mexico and can weigh up to 1,000 pounds. This year, a rare leatherback was rescued and released in Lamu by Lamcot, and yet another laid her nest on the beach in Watamu. Watamu also has a bycatch program, similar to Lamu's tag and release incentives.
So common threats to turtle, a big issue, for example, is bycatch. So with all the fisheries, with all the nets in the water, it's very easy for turtles to get caught in the nets, and because they have to come up to the surface to breathe, for example, they won't be able to do that. So that's one threat, that they basically drown in the nets, and they also get caught by the fishermen in the net. So bycatch is a big issue, and because a lot of the times local fishermen, for example, that go and fish for the turtles, either to sell them for money or also for food or something. A lot of the times it's not that they're evil, they don't have alternatives. That is the big issue here. So for example, by having those conservation initiatives in this area, we've already seen a positive change through that education. Also, here, for example, in Watamu, they are paying local fishermen to give us back the turtles when they catch them, so that we can release them. So that is providing an incentive for them to actually care about turtles that are in the nets, rather than selling them somewhere else or eating them or letting them drown. They're actually making an effort to protect them. And a lot of the local people as well that have started to get involved with conservation have started to really grown to love the turtles. So they realize what wonderful creatures they are, and how much it is important to take care of them, to protect the natural environment that's in this area, and to keep the whole ecosystem intact. Definitely having local conservation organizations in the area has helped to create that awareness.
When we began this program, the bycatch not release program, the fishermen were always complaining that the turtles usually cause damages in their fishing gears. And when they slaughter the turtle and sell their products, they usually make more than enough money to fix whatever damage the turtle have caused. So it reached a stage where we compromised with them that the program will be working together some sort of incentive to cover whatever damage the turtle have caused. It's always not enough, so the fisherman has to add a little bit of money to fix the damage. But then that program works very well. We do find it successful because of the education awareness.
So I work as a field officer, and that's involved in cooperation with the fishermen, doing the bycatch program, catching turtles and releasing them. The proud moment comes when when releasing the turtles, you feel all the time it's a proud moment. You see the turtles swimming amazingly in the water. So it's lovely once you save a creature, you feel like you've done something to the marine ecosystem. And it's never enough. Once you say it, then you feel like, oh, it's a new event, even if you've seen it already.
Ecotourism helps fund the Lamu Marine Conservation Trust. At Poaching Hotel, the staff of Lamcot give traveling tourists the chance to adopt a turtle caught by the fishermen. The adoption fees are used to pay the fishermen for the damage to their nets. Fishermen could get more money for the turtle meat on the black market, but Lamcot's education and community awareness push to save these endangered species has helped make the tag and release program a success. Tourists are also invited to go see a turtle hatching, and the contributions for the trip pay Odo to protect the eggs and help deliver the baby turtles safely to the sea.
That's what the kids say, you know, when we take kids there, that it was the most moving thing, because they knew they were coming to see elephants or giraffe or rhino, but they had no idea about the turtles. And it's kind of something that I do want to kind of keep secret. It's a difficult one, because if guests arrive and say, are the turtles on? Because I don't mention it, you see. And you say no, then there's a huge disappointment, because they've built up that hope of seeing them. But if you surprise them and say, well, we've got a turtle's nest today, what's that? And you go out and show them. You know, the solar panel over at Odo's was donated by a young girl. Well, she was 14, 15. And she was so moved by the turtles that she went back to school in America, and they did a cake sale with all her friends. She showed them all her photos and everything. And so everything that they got from the cake sale, she sent to me. So if I get like a sponsorship like that, then I like to tell them exactly what it's gone to. So she bought that solar panel. Yeah, but I fell in love as soon as they were hatched, you know, as all the guests do. You know, these little things come out, the determination that they have. And then, you know, once I looked into it, the plight, they were being eaten, the turtle eggs were being eaten, the turtles themselves were being eaten, so there was... I love the ocean, and as I said to you, I feel if we all did something and put something back into our environment, we would live in a better world. They're seriously endangered, and unless someone did something to help them, we were going to lose them on our beaches here.
I guess the thing I found strangest was when we walked onto the beach, it was as if we could see nothing there. And the guides took us to what looked like a pile of sand, just like all the other piles of sand. And then they started pulling away at the sand with their hands. And then suddenly, as if out of nothing, came these tiny little turtles, all on top of each other, all crowded on top of each other, all kind of pulling themselves up, trying to get on the beach. And it was almost as if they'd been left there, you know, as a present or a gift or something. Like it was. You couldn't see their shells, they weren't breaking out of their shells, they were just clawing out of nothingness. And then almost kind of trying to beat each other down to the sea. And as you could see the effort it was taking them. And what we were told was that it was really important that they did the little crawling down to the sea, because that was the first chance they had to exercise their muscles, to exercise their arms and their legs. And if they didn't do that bit when they eventually got to the sea, they wouldn't be able to swim, and so it was really important they did that bit themselves. But they weren't very good at it, and every so often they had to stop and have a little rest. And every time one had a little rest, you were kind of willing it to go on and make it. So when they eventually managed to haul themselves down into the sea, it was a big relief. a big relief to see all 80 of them pretty much make it down to the sea by themselves.
I was just surprised, you see all these things on TV, and so it's kind of like images that you feel like you're used to seeing, and so it's pretty amazing just to be sat there watching these things crawling out of the ground and into the water. So it's exciting, and I was amazed how quickly you kind of emotionally engage with these little things. Like we were cheering when they went in the water, and this is a little thing you'd only seen come out of the ground about 10 minutes ago. It's ridiculous. So that was exciting, yeah, and kind of overwhelming.
It was fantastic, actually. I think all of us came back saying it was even better than we imagined it would be. I think for me it was amazing that these tiny little things kind of evoked such a reaction in people. And I think often in Kenya it's all about the big animals, it's all about the big five. And suddenly we were there on this deserted beach watching these tiny little creatures come out, and everybody was just mesmerised. And I think everybody felt a big kind of emotional investment in watching these little tiny creatures get from the nest into the water. And there was a little kind of sandbank there, and every so often they'd kind of tumble down the sandbank and flop on their backs, and you'd kind of not want to get involved, but really be willing them on to turn themselves over and make it into the sea. I think it was nice also to feel that us being there hopefully wasn't disrupting things too much, but was actually helping. Because we all commented that watching, it was interesting to see that the crabs that often come and eat the little turtles on the way into the sea were all kind of held at bay. They were all waiting down the beach. So us being there actually in some ways was hopefully helping them to make it to the water in one piece, as it were. And yeah, I think we were lucky as well because there weren't too many of us. I think sometimes several boats can go at once, but there were just maybe half a dozen of us there, 7 or 8 of us. And just, yeah, as I say, just standing watching it was phenomenal.
I think every time I saw one of the turtles plop into the sea, I felt this enormous sense of relief. For some reason, seeing these tiny little things appear as if almost by magic, they seem so fragile and so precarious. And so seeing them manage to propel themselves just on the first part of what is a really dangerous life journey, we were told only a few will survive into adulthood out of all of those we saw. It felt like a big relief to see them manage to at least do that first stage of it themselves.
And I think the setting helps a lot. This crazy isolated beach, it's windswept, the breakers are rolling in, it's beautiful. And so there's a real sense of like these tiny little lives pottering out into this massive sea. And once they get swept out, you think, well, I kind of guess they're on their own now. They've done all this good work hatching and crawling in, and then to watch them just get swept out and think where they're going to end up is kind of sobering. So yeah, I thought it was incredible.
I think there was just a real emotional investment because you felt, as though it was a real very special thing that you were watching. And we had learnt a little bit from the charity about the risk that they face and, the critical time that those first few minutes and then hours, I guess, are. So there was a real sense of willing them on and then afterwards, I suppose, even after having watched them coming away, kind of thinking, is that little turtle still alive in the water? Did it make it? Yeah, definitely, it was emotional.
Well, I think the emotional thing was the risk that these little turtles were facing and the fact that so few of them were making it. And for us, we were just there at the start of the journey and seeing a few of them make it into the ocean. And the emotional thing was realising that a lot of them wouldn't see out the day or wouldn't see out the week, but maybe one of them would.
Tourism to Lamcot makes an enormous difference. And after going on safari to see the big game, many are just as thrilled to see a little turtle hatchling run to the Indian Ocean, or to see a grown one up close being tagged and released.
I feel really happy whenever tourists come here to see the turtle hatching. Seeing them watch the turtles running into the ocean gives me great joy. When the tourists come visiting, I get love and support. The Pony Hotel and Lamcot also get love and support for what they're doing. And we get donors who come back to support the project.
These little docile reptiles, 2 degrees south of the equator, have an invincible spirit as they flee to the sea. They are quite unique unto themselves. Watching a turtle hatching is always amazing. the final predator, the new port in Lamu.
The new port of Lamu is part of a huge infrastructure project that the government is part of its Vision 2030 program. The Vision 2030 is to propel Kenya into a better economy, kind of like the Asian tigers earlier on. So they're hoping that this infrastructure project will benefit Kenya. Now the project itself is called LAPSET, which is Lamu, South Sudan, Ethiopia Transport Corridor. So they envision it as a transportation corridor that will bring oil from South Sudan to Lamu at the port, where it will be refined and then sent off. So it's a huge infrastructure project. It includes highways, railways, international airports in various parts along the corridor. It includes resort cities. In fact, one of them is planned to be here in Lamu County, kind of like a Sun City or a Dubai type situation. It also includes an oil refinery here at the Lamu port. So as you can see, it's a huge project, and the cost of it's in the billions and billions of dollars. So the project itself is supposed to be 32 berths at the Lamu port in the Manda Bay area of Lamu, which is about 15 kilometers from where we are sitting. It's on the mainland, but it's nestled in an area that's mangrove forests. It's in a channel. The channel is quite deep, but the type of ships that they want to come in, there'll have to be a lot of dredging. That unfortunately goes through one of the only living coral reefs that we have. So the dredging from that will be destructive. And then the type of ships that are coming in, of course, are the post-Panamax ships, so they're huge ships that are coming in. What the government did was to actually launch the project before the environmental study was done. So on the mainland, when you actually go to the site, you'll find that a great swath of mangroves have just been chopped down. You'll find an area where they're building a huge administration block. So that's about the extent of the work so far. So the administration block is a 4-story building. They're hoping that that will house all the Kenya Port Authority and all of those administration offices. Another big aspect of it is the mangrove, the whole ecosystem in that area is very fragile. People have been fishing in that area, they've been cutting mangroves in that area for hundreds and hundreds of years. But what are we talking about here when we have huge ships coming in with their wastewater, with the oil being transported? What are we talking about for this fragile environment? We have the hopes, and in terms of what the government wants, of huge ships coming in, 1,000+ feet long, coming into the channel for 32 berths. So that means that if you're going to fill them, you've got to have 30 ships coming in, 30 ships leaving. You've got to have a lot of activity in this channel, which has provided, it's a breadbasket for here. It has provided the food for the people who've lived here for ages. So what does that mean when now that will become a polluted area where people are not able to provide for their families? They won't be able to fish there. They won't be able to cut mangroves there. It will be a devastation for Lamu. The feasibility study says that there is an issue with the marine life in the area. And what part of the marine life in the area is dugongs and sea turtles, which are both on endangered lists. Sea turtles are endangered. They're being protected by Kenya Wildlife Service. They're being protected by LAMCOT. But yet we have the government coming in and building this port and not giving us an alternative or telling us how they're going to protect these endangered species. And if these super tankers are passing by, then it is going to disrupt the whole environment and the animals that are in the ocean. It's going to be catastrophic.
I can say when the ships they are starting to come here, the water also there will be changed because of the oil, gas, everything, even the fish also. They will not stay around here now. They will go very far. Even the tourism now also, they will not swim near the sea there. There is a big hotel here, Manda Bay also. Now all this we can miss it now when the port is ready. Even the big sharks, they follow the ship inside, they are coming near here also. So it will be a very dangerous. The tortoise also, they will disappear. They will go. They lay eggs, especially the very quiet beach, very nice beach, place beach. But if there is a port now here, all the turtles, they will go. They will look for another place.
So Lamu, obviously that port that they're planning on building around the Lamu area is, I believe, really going to have a negative effect on the turtles, because from the increased ship traffic, for example, that's going to go through there, there's a much higher chance for ship strikes with the turtles, so that they get hit by the propellers or by the motors, by the ships themselves when they come up to surface to breathe. So already that's having a small effect on the populations worldwide. But if such a big port is being built in an area like Lamu, which has such a big turtle population, then that's really going to have an effect on that local population. And also from the development, from the traffic itself, from the ships passing by, there'll be a higher chance of water pollution. So again, potential leakage of oil or any other thing, plastic, higher rates of plastic pollution in the water, that's going to affect the turtles. And also any of the turtles that want to migrate back to that region might actually find the beach where they used to hatch, all of that much further developed than it used to be, because obviously if they're building the port, they're going to take some space, some area on the coastline, so that their natural habitat is going to be gone. So if it's going to go ahead, it's definitely going to have a negative effect on the turtles in Lamu.
Around these islands, much of the frontage is actually mangrove, so the number of beaches on which turtles can lay their eggs is a bit limited. And yet that bay has a lot of open beach. And I would imagine that the wake of ships and all the ancillary crafts, the tugs, the pilot boats and the rest, will sort of sweep up those beaches and uncover the turtle egg nests. So I think it would have a very detrimental effect on the turtles that breed within that bay. And as you know, turtles keep on coming back to the place where they were born. So I think it would probably have a very serious impact on the turtles out of Manda Bay.
What it will do to the mainland, to the culture, to the marine life it'll be devastating for this area. We have started up, Lamcot has started up Kiweni together with FFI and a number of other conservation groups, and what we're hoping to do is make quite a strong conservation team, so that if they do go ahead with the port, then we will have quite a strong, with WWF are with us as well, FFI, Tusk Trust, and then we're hoping that we'll have a strong team together to be able to fight to make it a greener port than it would have been, rather than just bulldozing straight over us. And it also depends who's going to be building it, and that, you know, We've had a few problems north of here, towards Kui with, we went up the other day, Lars and I, and we found a Chinese lorry there. And there's quite a few turtle skeletons, as well as fish. So they're definitely raping our seas. And the people are poor, you know, so they're ready to sell whatever they can get their hands on, whether it's turtle eggs or turtle meat or fish or the sea cucumbers. They're collecting it all and selling it to make a living.
In my perspective, the new port is really going to be destroying everything as far as biodiversity or ecosystem is concerned. Because I think the environmental impact assessment, we didn't get the report, and we have been really asking for that report. Because when we talk of the environmental impact assessment, we are talking about economically, culturally, and environmentally. And we didn't get the report, so we don't know how the port will be. But according to my objective, the corals, the mangroves, the ecosystem at large will be totally destroyed. The oil spilling from the ship, that is pollution in other words. It will go to the, destroying the corals, mangroves, and some other species of the fish and turtles in particular. So with me, I really do oppose the matter of the port. Maybe the migration of the turtle also will also a problem. They will be migrating from our beach and going elsewhere. That is the other thing we are looking at. They say it's going to be the biggest port in Africa. I'm very concerned that it's going to significantly affect the turtles in one way or another.
Galana kuna ngoma tawere kuna ngoma koba tenda ifinadze ngoma ya mkonyonyo silenda wala gesira ushanga generale majunga enzoni kubadilika lafu upate kumanya umbana wago mavisho birene yesu masi wabaya junga na pola naye wanamba yunda kudza mzo wa manalo harama ndingo walwa jimba be sikudzano la meno na patates sangana maganja mazia nangu mane pegire ngalawa ngoma ya mkonyonyo ya pesa pepo ndani ya moyo mwanzio washala beko la lora manjewa mwambirene pamela ze lole urembo.
I think the construction of the new Lamu seaport will be hugely devastating to the turtles. Noise pollution, air pollution, all the big ships coming in and out will destroy their delicate habitat. I'm not happy at all. The shores will no longer be friendly for the sea turtles to hatch. But if I see one little turtle dead, I feel bad. It's a huge loss for me. I never thought my life would be protecting turtles.
The new port may be delayed with tribal infighting and civil wars, but the sea turtles of Lamu will continue to fight their own war for survival. podcast.